The roar of a heavy diesel engine is a deafening sound when you are only 10 inches tall. Amidst the massive rolling tires at the city bus station, the frantic rush of hundreds of commuting footsteps, and the thick, choking smell of exhaust smoke, sat a small, trembling silhouette. She was pressed completely flat against a cold concrete pillar, trying desperately to make herself invisible in a world that was suddenly too loud, too bright, and moving too fast. When the sweeping headlights of a turning bus swept across her hiding spot, they illuminated something truly heartbreaking. Resting around her neck, sitting loose against her dust-covered fur, was a worn, faded pink collar. This was not a feral cat born to the harsh and unforgiving life of the alleys. This was someone's family member. Hanging heavily from that old collar was a small, scratched metal tag. It was barely legible in the dim, flickering streetlights, but engraved into the metal was a single word. It read, "Cookie." Finding a frightened cat like Cookie immediately changes the entire nature of a street rescue. When you see a collar on a terrified animal, you are no longer just saving a stray from the elements. You are stepping right into the middle of a family's tragedy. Somewhere in this sprawling city, a family was likely pacing their floors, staring down at an empty food bowl, and praying for the phone to ring. But Cookie did not know that. All she knew was the terrifying hissing noise of the air brakes and the cold, unforgiving pavement beneath her paws. Her wide, fully dilated green eyes darted wildly with every passing shadow. Approaching a lost, panic-stricken pet requires a very specific kind of patience. They are almost always in a state of deep physiological shock. Their wild survival instincts completely take over, and even the absolute sweetest house cat can hiss, spit, or strike out in sheer terror because they do not understand you are trying to help. We crouched down very low to the ground, avoiding direct eye contact so we would not be perceived as a predator. We gently slid a small spoonful of strong-smelling wet food toward her, waiting in the noise for the familiar scent to break through her heavy wall of fear. Very slowly, trembling from exhaustion and hunger, Cookie crept forward. When we finally managed to wrap her securely in a thick, soft blanket and lift her away from the roaring chaos of the buses, she seemed to give up the fight. She melted into our arms, letting out a long, ragged sigh of surrender. Getting her out of the noise and into a quiet, secure room was only the beginning of our mission. When you find a cat that clearly belongs to someone, the entire goal shifts from finding a new home to facilitating a reunion. But reuniting a lost cat with their original family is a highly delicate process, and this is where the first crucial step comes in. Before you do anything else, before you even move the cat if it is safe to do so, you must take clear, well-lit photographs. This sounds incredibly simple, but in the heat of an emotional moment, it is the first mistake many rescuers make. They forget to take photos, or they take blurry, dark pictures that show nothing. We set Cookie gently on a clean towel under a bright light and took our time to photograph her. We made sure to capture her face from the front and the side. More importantly, we focused intensely on her unique identifying marks. We took a close-up picture of the specific, jagged white patch on her chest and the very slight old tear on the tip of her left ear. We also photographed that worn pink collar. Why is this specific visual record so profoundly important? Because when a frantic, crying owner is scrolling through hundreds of lost and found posts online, a clear image of their cat's unique face is the only beacon of hope they have. A frightened, stressed cat like Cookie will often hunch down and look completely different than she does lounging happily on her living room sofa. Capturing her specific, undeniable coat patterns is the only reliable way to ensure her family recognizes her in her frightened state. Once we had our clear photographs, we moved immediately to the next vital phase of the rescue protocol. We placed Cookie into a secure travel carrier and drove straight to the local veterinary clinic. We were not just bringing her in to check her physical health. We were looking for an invisible lifeline. We needed to scan her for a microchip. This is a crucial step that should never, under any circumstances, be skipped when you find a stray animal. A collar can easily snap off in the brush. A metal tag can become scratched and unreadable, but a microchip is a permanent physical link between a pet and their person, sitting safely under their skin. The veterinarian brought out the handheld universal scanner, a small wand-like device that reads radio frequencies. As she slowly ran the scanner over Cookie's shoulder blades, the loud exam room went completely silent. We all held our breath, staring at the blank screen, waiting. And then a sharp, loud beep filled the room. The scanner screen instantly lit up with a glowing 15-digit number. It was a moment of pure, overwhelming relief, which was followed almost immediately by a new wave of deep anxiety. A microchip is an incredible tool, but it is only as good as the information the owner has registered to it. The clinic staff quickly hurried to the computer and typed the long number into the National Pet Database. The screen loaded for what felt like hours, finally displaying a name and a phone number. We dialed the number right there in the bright clinic, listening to the dial tone ring once, twice, 3 times. We waited to hear a voice, but instead a harsh, robotic, automated voice clicked on, informing us that the number dialed was no longer in service. The owner had moved or changed their phone plan, and they had forgotten to update the microchip registry. The dead end at the vet clinic was incredibly discouraging, but it simply meant we had to rely on the power of the community. This brings us to another extremely common mistake people make when trying to find a lost pet's owner, and what you absolutely must do instead. Many well-meaning people simply post a picture of the found cat on their own personal social media pages and hope for the best. But a lost cat's family will likely never see a private post from a stranger. You have to be highly strategic. We sat down at the computer and began uploading Cookie's clear, detailed photos into specific, localized lost and found pet groups for our exact city. We posted in neighborhood community boards, specifically targeting the blocks surrounding the bus station where she was found. We asked people to share the post to trigger the algorithms and spread her face across local feeds. But here is the most critical rule of all when making these public posts. You must always withhold one key identifying detail. When we wrote the public post about Cookie, we mentioned her general color pattern, and we stated the exact intersection where she was found. We posted a beautiful, clear picture of her face, but we deliberately hid the photo of the worn pink collar. We did not mention the collar in the text, and we never ever mentioned the name written on her tag. Why do rescuers intentionally hide information when they are trying so hard to find an owner? Because unfortunately, the internet is not always a safe place. Sometimes, individuals with bad intentions will try to claim a found cat for terrible reasons, either to sell them for profit or use them in cruel ways. By keeping the collar a complete secret, we created a mandatory safety test. Anyone who contacted us claiming to be Cookie's family would have to prove it to us without any help. They would have to describe the collar on their own, tell us the name engraved on the tag, or provide their own personal photographs showing the cat wearing it. It is a necessary, non-negotiable shield designed to protect a highly vulnerable animal who cannot speak for herself. A true, loving owner will easily and instantly be able to describe the collar they bought and the name they lovingly chose. After the posts went live, the hardest part began: the waiting. For the next 2 entire days, Cookie stayed quietly in our safe foster room. She spent almost all of her time hiding far back under a small, dark armchair, coming out only in the dead of night to eat a few hurried bites of dry kibble. You could see the profound confusion and grief in her entire posture. Every single time a door opened down the hall, her ears would swivel sharply forward. Her wide eyes would search the doorway, desperately looking for a familiar face, listening for a familiar voice, sniffing the air for a familiar scent. And every time she realized it was just us walking in, her small shoulders would physically slump. She would lower her head and retreat further back into her safe, shadowy corner. It is agonizing to watch a companion animal grieve the sudden loss of everything they know. We sat softly on the floor with her for hours, speaking in low, rhythmic tones, promising her that we were trying our absolute hardest to find her people. We checked our phones constantly, refreshing the social media posts, answering well-meaning comments, and filtering through private messages. On the late evening of the 3rd day, a message finally appeared in our inbox that made our hearts completely stop. It was from a young woman named Sarah. The message was frantic, full of hasty typos, and clearly written in a state of high emotional distress. She said she had just seen our shared post in a local neighborhood watch group. She explained that her indoor-only cat had slipped out of an open-screen window during a massive, booming thunderstorm nearly 2 weeks ago, several blocks away from the bustling bus station. And then, without us prompting her at all, she provided the exact proof we were waiting for. Before we even had to ask a single question, Sarah wrote, she should be wearing a very old, faded pink collar, and her silver name tag says Cookie. Attached to the message were 5 beautiful, crystal-clear photos of a relaxed, happy cat sleeping lazily in a bright sunbeam on a living room rug. It was undeniably the exact same cat. The jagged white patch on the chest matched perfectly. The slight old tear on the left ear was exactly the same. We did not wait another second. We picked up the phone and dialed the new number Sarah provided. The moment she answered the phone, we could hear the sheer exhaustion and the fragile, desperate hope in her shaking voice. When we simply told her that Cookie was safe, completely unharmed, and waiting for her in our foster room, Sarah broke down into heavy, uncontrollable sobs. It was the raw, genuine sound of weeks of terrible guilt, sleepless nights, and nightmare scenarios finally washing away. Less than an hour later, Sarah arrived at the front door of our rescue center. Her eyes were red and swollen, and she was clutching an old, fuzzy blanket tightly against her chest, a blanket that smelled exactly like their shared home. We led her very quietly down the hall to the foster room. We warned her in a whisper that Cookie might be highly timid, explaining that she had been through a massive, terrifying trauma in the loud, chaotic world outside. But the very moment we opened that bedroom door, everything we knew about feline trauma changed. Sarah immediately dropped to her knees on the hard floor. She did not reach out her hands or try to grab the frightened cat. She simply stayed low to the ground and called out in a gentle, melodic, singing voice, "Cookie, Cookie, I'm right here." The emotional transformation was instantaneous. The trembling, terrified little shadow we had pulled from the deafening bus station vanished into thin air. Cookie's head snapped up violently from beneath the armchair. Her tail, which had been tucked tightly between her back legs in absolute fear for 3 straight days, suddenly lifted straight and high into the air with a rapid, joyful quiver at the very tip. She let out a loud, demanding, squeaky meow, a confident sound we had not heard her make a single time since the night we found her. She trotted directly out from her hiding spot without a second of hesitation, closed the distance between them, and pressed her small forehead firmly and forcefully against Sarah's tear-stained face. The purring started immediately. It rumbled so loudly and deeply within her chest that it filled the entire quiet room. It was a profound, highly visible release of held tension for both of them. Cookie aggressively kneaded her front paws against Sarah's jacket, burying her face deep into her owner's neck, breathing in the scent of absolute safety. She was breathing in the scent of home. Watching Cookie confidently walk out the front door, safely tucked into her own familiar carrier, heading back to the warm life she knew and loved, is exactly why we do this exhausting work. It is a powerful, beautiful reminder of the heavy responsibility we all share when we see an animal in distress on the streets. If you ever find yourself looking at a stray cat, especially one wearing a collar, or looking utterly lost and out of place, please do not just walk away. Do not assume that someone else will handle it or that the cat knows its way home. Stop what you are doing and look closely. Take that clear, focused photograph immediately. Make the necessary trip to the local vet clinic to scan for a microchip, because that invisible, glowing number might be the very last bridge back to a broken-hearted family. Post the picture strategically in local community groups, but always remember to withhold that one piece of vital, identifying information to keep the vulnerable pet safe from harm. The entire process takes real effort. It takes dedicated patience, and it takes time out of your busy day. But the ultimate reward is giving a terrified, lost animal their entire world back. Somewhere out there, right now, there might be a family staring out a dark window, desperately waiting for the sound of a familiar meow. And if you pay attention, you might be the only person in the world who can guide their little one safely home.